What's going on, good people? It's your guy, Dr. Ty. Welcome to Athletes or Scholars. We invite you to consider the other side of genius. We may also get a glimpse of another side of Jesus. And I'm excited to have a conversation with my friend and brother, Dr. MyRon Edmonds.
My brother. Yes.
My guy.
Yes, sir.
Not sure if there's any more appropriate person to have this conversation with. Consummate leader, scholar, pastor, entrepreneur, CEO of the Winning Circle, a dad of an athlete, and I also have to go here. You know, I think want you to know that he had some athletic skills.
A little something. I had a little something.
You know, let's just start there, man. Tyler, we have to just real fast. Let's just get it clear for the people, man. Did you really have the sauce? Because I hear, and even today we learned. I think your grandfather or your dad was nice.
Listen, brother,
Were you nice?
just ask the people. If you're really an athlete, you don't have to speak for yourself.
Okay.
The streets will speak for you.
Well, listen, I need in the comments, let us know if you hoop with him. You know what I'm saying? If you were at Pine Forge with him and he had a thing or two that's worth celebrating, let us know. But we're just excited to continue the conversation. If you've been rocking with us for any amount of time, you know, we're engaged in a conversation on Adventism and athletics. You know, in a series with Spectrum, looking at a theological reflection on Adventism and sport, and it's appropriate. We're in March. It's March Madness.
Yes, it's very good time.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And one of these we even talked about in earlier conversations is that Adventists love sport, right? Especially many of our pastors, our friends, our colleagues.
We don't like
love
to admit it, but we do.
We love sport,
That's
right?
That's right.
You know what I mean? If you get around any of our social media pages, especially around December and January, you will see him weeping and gnashing of teeth as his Cowboys, you know, let him down.
I weep a little sooner than you do, but you come weeping too.
Right? Or if you look at the footage from you and Kevin Cameron, we would like to, LeBron needs to know that you helped to make that happen, right? And just get one. Just one
win. Yes.
And so we know that we are in good company, not just with each other, but there's a community of people that like us love sport. When I mention sport to you, not even just sport and Adventism, when you think about sport, just as someone who grew up obviously proximate to the church and just in your own journey as a young brother, what comes to mind as it relates to sport and MyRon Edmonds?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And we were in church today, so you kind of heard one of the pastors talk about my father. My father was a very good athlete, both in basketball and football. Got scholarships to play at D1 schools, but joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church and received a call to ministry, and that's kind of how his journey went. So, to answer your point. Answer your question about, you know, what is sport? Sport was life.
Yeah.
Like we talked about sport. Sports was, there's not a day of the week when I was growing up as a kid where sports was not a part of what was going on in life, whether we were watching things, where we were playing. When I also think of sport, I think of family. It was always a great opportunity for us to come together as a family, for us to support each other, for us to play together.
For sure.
And so sport to me really is another word for play. How do we play? How do we fellowship? How do we have fun together? Outside of whatever else that we're doing that requires us to be so serious or so focused or so stressed. And so, sports for me and my family was life. And it's interesting, I married a wife. My wife, Shanae. Man, praise God. Lord, listen, man, now everybody can't testify like I can.
Come on.
But man, I married a woman that loves sports.
She loves sports.
She is a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, diehard basketball fan. And on Sundays, listen, my wife and I, we are sitting down watching sports.
Isn't that so attractive?
It's a beautiful
My wife
thing.
loves sports too, man. She says certain things about like certain players or it's a wonderful. I'm like, oh, you were so fun.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
It's a wonderful thing.
Well, sports is life.
Sports is life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even as a preacher.
Yeah.
You know, and you and I were talking off camera about this. So many of the illustrations. And the metaphors and the life lessons that we use with sports. And even in our church, we don't like to admit it, but we use sports and the competitive nature of sports in our politics. We use it with Bible Bowl. I mean, if you really get down to the weeds of it, sports is woven through the fabric of our lives. If you grow up in this world that we're living in, it's not even just America, because we know how big soccer is all over the world. what's the cricket?
Bermuda Cup match.
But cricket, I didn't know cricket was such a huge sport, especially in the South Pacific and so forth and so on. So the whole world, we have to ask ourselves that question. The whole world is into sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some people that are not into sports, but I'm saying, generally speaking,
Yeah.
on every continent, there is a sport that people are into, and it weaves families in for generations. And so sports is life.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
And so I want to take you then from your sort of reflections on sport for you to then sport and the church, right? Like when you think about sport and the church, you have a history of 25 years of pastoral ministry. And when I think about, and let me tee you up this way, you know, you mentioned the love of sport. As you know, I work in D1 athletics, and while this conversation, I'm not approaching it through my lens of an employee in that space, I cannot separate myself from what I get to see every day, every week. And I do see sport as a legitimate space of ministry. To that, I mean, you got 65,000 people weekly who are gathering in these sports spaces to worship, you know what I mean, right? To lift hands. They have songs, you know what I mean? You got deacons, you got people who minister on the field, right? And so one of these I talk about in one of the other articles is the reality. I believe that athletes experience this divine connection, these moments of like flashes where they engage in divinity in ways that maybe are akin to when a preacher hits his flow, when preparation meets that moment and the Spirit takes over. When the singer has prepared, but there's this moment where the music is right and the acoustics happen and the audience is there and they ad lib or the whatever. I believe that happens in sport when that athlete makes that catch and then they come off the field and the first thing they say is, "I like to thank God for," and sometimes perhaps we've taken that as just like fleeting talk or just like loose God speak. But I'm wondering if we've missed something as relates to...
Some people don't even feel that we should even make those connections.
Right? So help us as a person who loves sport and loves God. Is there something that maybe we are missing as relates to sport and the space and maybe even what God can do in and for and through athletes?
Yeah, so I want to answer your first question about sports and my experience with the church. And then I definitely want to dig into that overarching question that you're asking, because I think it akins to the question that we were kind of rapping about before this, which is a theology of sports. But so I'll say this, when I was coming up as a kid, and I know a lot of people in the church, but I know especially in the Black church, the Black church, most of our Black churches were in inner cities. Right. So, and especially, you know, the 60s and, you know, when regional conferences were starting to grow and our churches began to grow, and some of these mother churches and flagship churches in a lot of our cities, New Orleans, New York cities, the Washington, D.C.s, the Philadelphia and so forth, you started seeing the inclusion of sports. And I'm going to tell you why. It was a natural inclusion because of our relationship as regional conferences to Black people and to the inner city. And it became it was always mission driven. What are we going to provide for these new families that are joining the church? Where we give them our schools, we give them our diet. What are we giving them for recreation? We would have church socials. But what would they be doing at these church socials? They're playing dominoes. They're doing all, you know what I'm saying? They're playing. Right? And so I don't know when it started, and I think that would be a worthy investigation, but basketball became a thing. Flag football. And depending on what region you're in, you know, soccer obviously, and softball. These all were a part of my experience growing up in the church. And the interesting thing is like, we have always loved sports, but it was never okay to say that in church. Now, preachers would use illustrations, but even then, in the days I was growing up, they would do so, you know, sparingly. But now, I mean, nowadays preachers are just going all out. They talk about stuff. I remember when I was living in Cleveland, and you know, the Cavs won the championship in 2016. You have folks from Cleveland. These are sports fans. Before they became Adventists, they were sports fans, and they didn't stop when they became. And so for that city to win a championship, and listen, they won Game 6 on a Friday night, and so we're in church the next day. We know good and well, for whatever reason, even the old mothers of the church, they knew who won the game. You know what I'm saying? And there was joy.
There was joy in the house.
But what I'm saying is, like, It's just weird to me that we've always had this, like we like sports, but we can't say we like sports.
This closeted love.
Yeah, it's a closet love for sports, but it's in plain sight because we're having the tournaments and we're having the federations and youth congresses and the teams are competing from all over. But then simultaneously, we are telling ourselves that you can't really participate in sports. And so how many kids that I grow up with who were amazing athletes, God-given talent.
Say it.
Like whether they run, jump, throw a ball, or what have you, run track, like next level talent. But you have this tension. We can enjoy it, but only but so much. We can play it, but only for recreation. Anything else, a Seventh-day Adventist does not participate in sport outside of controlled recreation, where the Sabbath is not infringed upon, where our behavior is still in line with Christ. But there is nothing, we have nothing to do with sport, as a people. So we'll deny our kids opportunities to play, so forth and so on. But then we turn around on Sunday.
Come on.
And we will turn on the television.
Come on.
And we'll watch the games. We'll attend the games. We have season ticket holders.
Come on.
That we have folks who are season ticket holders to basketball, football teams, and the like. Who have told their children that they cannot play, on Sabbath, or can't play in high school, or cannot play. So there is a major tension.
How did that happen though? Like I know we can't take a full deep dive into the history, but you often talk about your multiple generational connections to the denomination.
Yes.
What's your sense of how that happened, particularly as it relates to the Black church, the Black Adventist community, right? Because I do think, and I make this point in one of the articles, that I think some of these decisions, like most deleteriously impact the Black community because of the hypervisibility of Black athletes and the celebration of them in particular fields. And the absence at times of other fields. And you will celebrate them, but then as you already mentioned, our kids are not being allowed to sort of use their gifts in that space. Do you have a sense of any historical historical realities that may be undergirding the tension that you just highlighted?
Did you hear what you just said? That's heavy. First of all, let me say this. There is a symbiotic relationship that Black people have with sports that is different with other cultures.
Come on.
Just because sports was a place that we were denied access. So you have what's the guy's name? Played for the Dodgers. He's the first. You have so many first Black athletes. And Seventh-day Adventists and Christians in general, the like, your Muhammad Ali's of the world. We saw these figures. They represented people who made it. People who defied the odds. And we rooted for them.
100%.
I mean, with tears. When firsts happen, or when they crossed certain milestones and so forth. To me, I think that's a fascinating way to look at it, because we have this relationship. But deep down inside, let's be real, there is an Adventist baseline theological guilt trip that we have for actually liking sports in the first place. There's something maybe even eschatological that says, how can you be liking sports? Jesus is about to come.
Come on.
What are you doing? That we don't have time for the sports. We don't have time to be watching games. We need to be in our Bible.
Come on.
And honestly, to me, it's akin, and I just thought about this.
Come on.
It's akin to some of the teaching we heard coming up where they would say you couldn't have sex on Sabbath. There was a little, where is this stuff coming from? Where we are trying to control how people express their relationship with God, when we're all having these individual experiences with God, to the point that you're telling people that they cannot make love to their wife because it's Sabbath. I'm saying that, I'm using it as an illustration to say, this is the type of stuff we came up under. That type of control.
Anti-joy.
But here's why I use the illustration. But we like sex.
Right.
But we're not supposed to. on the Sabbath. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's another tension.
Yeah. There's the tension. So it's like, we like sports,
right,
but we're not really supposed to be liking it.
Right.
But we really like to see them run.
Right.
Boy, I love seeing Bolt run.
Right.
Boy, and we're rooting for them. We're waving the Jamaican flag.
100%.
And we're rooting for the basketball players. We're not watching on Sabbath.
Yeah.
But as soon as the sun sets, we've been recorded the games.
This is it.
We're ready. So we know we love it. We just don't admit it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So the vocation piece.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this earlier, and I think this is brilliant work that you're doing. Everybody needs to read these 6 articles that you've written in Spectrum, because it's forcing us to actually think about something that's just evolving, that we haven't actually had a honest conversation about, right? And I think that's what you're trying to get us to do.
Absolutely.
But the question you asked, I think it was a good one. It was like, what is your theology of sport? And I say this with taking no umbrage at saying this, or offense, but my initial reaction when I hear that is, we don't need a theology of sport. Now, let me just tell you why I feel that way, right? I just don't feel like we need a theology of sport, because then we will need a theology of plumbing. Then we're going to need a theology of play. Then we're going to need a theology of being engineers or electricians, or do we need a theology of cooking? Do we need a theology of hiking? Do we need a theology? Do you see what I'm saying? From a very pragmatic perspective, I see why we need a theology of sport, because we are confused with this love-hate relationship that we have with it. But I'm saying, I think the damage that can be done with that is we hyper-focus our attention and over spiritualize an area that doesn't require that. To me, what we need to be asking ourselves is what is what's our relationship to vocation? Calling. And then outside of calling, because I know there's the work part with sports. You know, it can be a career.
It could.
You have coaches, you have staff people, and all those folks. We told our people that I guess you can't do any of those things, right? Maybe you could be the team doctor, but you can't work on Sabbath or whatever. But I think the other piece is it, there's a play part. Do we need a theology of play? Do we need a theology of exercise and recreation? I thought we had that already.
Some would say we do.
I thought we had that already, right? And so when people have actually trained their bodies to the highest level of performance, bro, that's a gift. That's a talent. When as fast as Usain Bolt was running,
come on,
God gave him that, bro. Like, you can't tell me when Michael Jordan has a basketball in his hand, you can't tell me that God didn't give it. God gave him that. So I don't know. I'm just telling you honestly. I struggle with that because what I don't want to happen is for us to make it seem like we at sports requires us to justify it by finding some scriptures on it. When we don't need no scriptures to go to the grocery store. You don't need no scriptures to go hiking. I mean, I don't understand. We need a theology for life. Whatever we do, do to the whatever. Whatever you do, do to the glory of God. And leave it there. I don't know.
That's good. Well, shout out also to Usain Bolt, right? Because I believe he actually has Adventist roots, right? And so
you named a bunch of people.
You know, I mean, Magic Johnson. I mean, just and there are many, right? And you know, it's interesting that you raised that, because there are some who have suggested that maybe what we really need to consider is a theology of Sabbath, right? And because I think part of the challenge for some people is that sport engagement overlaps with Sabbath observance and what one can or should do on Sabbath. There are also those who wrestle with competition. Right, and in particular, Anna White's writings as relates to competition. But you had a thought on that. You talked about also like how and where we find our theology, and that maybe we need to be just clear that like Ellen White's writings aren't the foundation of a position for our denomination.
Right, no, they can't. Ellen White would say that herself. Ellen White would say that you don't build theology off of my writings and my statements. Now, if anybody disagrees with that, then you need to question your Adventism. Because Adventists have been sola scriptura, meaning we base our theology on the Bible and the Bible alone. Ellen White was viewed as a prophet, as a messenger to the remnant church to guide us back to scripture. And there's a number of quotes where Ellen White says, stop reading me, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, and read this. Stop quoting me and read scripture. But, you know, I think I want to go back. The vocation piece to me is the piece, because like calling, and I'll show you how narrow we have thought. We came out of the agricultural age into the industrial age because of education, things of that nature. And Oakwood, as some research I've been, doing, Oakwood essentially said in no uncertain terms that we are going to produce teachers, we are going to produce pastors, we are going to produce medical doctors, and I think there was one other.
Sure.
And if you look at Adventism over the years, those are the ones that we love, that we give laud to, and we honor.
Sure.
But now we live in a world that has we're past the industrial age.
Yeah.
We're past the technological age.
Sure.
Now we're in the artificial intelligence age.
Yeah.
There are so many different jobs. Oakwood, for example, didn't even have certain careers for certain folks. Like my daughter is a fashion designer.
Yeah.
So we had nothing for that.
Right.
Do we need a theology for fashion? Like, you see what I'm saying? And we kind of did, didn't we?
Right.
It was all prohibition.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is it's a mission theology. Like, is God calling his people to be salt and light in this earth?
Yeah.
Shout out Salt.
Shout out to Salt. Right? Salt City Church, Columbia, Missouri. Yeah.
No, it's a sense like, no, only teachers, only preachers, only doctors, only whatever the other fourth one is. That's it.
Yeah.
But we don't have any room for God's people to be called to any other areas.
Mercy.
That's madness to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the numbers are, but you know this better than me.
Yeah.
The amount of people, and we're not just talking professional sports or D1, but sports starts as all the way down to Pop Warner and to children and to, carpooling and T-ball and all of these areas where, look, every day, I'm not sure when soccer season ended or when it begins. When I leave my house, there is a park. It's full of families.
Yep, 100%. Oh yeah.
So that ain't no mission field. There's no mission field in there. Nobody's coaching.
Brother, I felt that when I go to these stadiums, and I'm saying this work for me has been crystallized, having been in sports spaces vis-a-vis church spaces. I remember being in London, right? And I was on my way to a particular church. I attended the church, no disrespect, but it was like many other churches that I've been in. It was pretty bland, quiet. The audience wasn't full, but I could also compare that to the loud, excited Arsenal fans who were making their way to Highbury Stadium at the time. And I was just like, yo, but
we'll demonize that.
Right?
Because it's not our thing. So we demonize.
Yeah.
It's like we'll demonize sports because it's worldliness.
Yeah.
But the word also says, don't be in the world. It says be in the world, but don't be of the world.
Yeah.
The church should love the world. God called, how can you save that which you don't love?
Come on.
You don't love these coaches and these players.
You're talking good.
And these family members that have sacrificed everything. Like you're not moved by these stories. I was listening to this Edgecombe kid when he went into the draft. He was talking about his family and Bam Adebayo grew up in a double wide. I mean, family like this. God, they see God all through this, but we don't, and we're not present to be at the table to make decisions.
We're not proximate enough to them and that's what I've experienced over the last 5 years, right? To be proximate to these athletes, their families, their journeys, their struggles, and the opportunity to also ensure that they know that there's a God who loves them. And no, let me be clear. Many of them actually know and love God. They're just not Adventists, many of them, right? And so I think that brings us to a powerful even place in the conversation because your identity is so nuanced in the space. This is not just theory for you. You are the dad of an athlete, right? And I know there are many parents out there who are wrestling with what to do, and we're not going to tell people what to do.
Sure.
But like, if you were trying to encourage and give just perspective to not just parents and young athletes who will watch this, who are watching, but also to the wider village who needs to support the vertical engagement where we're not telling people what to do, but just giving frameworks for consideration and the horizontal support. Like, what would you say to our community, our people that we love? You don't work for the church anymore, so you can speak as freely as you want. But like me, also, we got a lot of people in the structure that we love, that we have responsibility to steward, right?
Yes.
what saith the Lord through you in this space
Why you got to set it up like that? Why you got to set it up like that, man?
Listen, man, I want you to spirit of
I
the
thought you said that we were just processing, brother. We're working it out.
You know what I'm saying? In your
Whoa,
process of working
no
it up,
pressure.
man. What are you saying, man?
Well, there are a couple of things. So I'm gonna say one thing to set up this question about, especially even having a son.
Yeah.
So
Shout out to Cam. Too,
yeah,
we love Cam, man. That's my guy.
So first thing is like our people in general. And I'm just saying this. We as a people in general have a hard time not compartmentalizing our faith.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Period. So we can sit up here and say we're not in sports.
Yeah.
We got a whole lot of people that work for the government. We got a whole lot of people that's in the school system.
Yeah.
That's why I was excited to hear that woman today, Linda Jackson, and all the work she's doing here in the Oakland area. But she's clearly sees herself as a ambassador for 100%. Jesus Christ wherever she goes, and she's making that impact.
Yeah.
Let's be real. There's a lot of our folk that don't carry that kind of calling on their life. It's just a job.
Come on. Yeah.
They don't have no friends. That's why our churches are not growing.
Yeah.
That's why they're empty. There's no reason why we need a pastor to preach and have all these amazing, when we literally have millions of believers all over the world in different spaces, and they ain't bringing no fruit. They ain't making no babies.
Come on.
There's a problem. So let's not make it on just sports.
Yeah.
There's a problem with us, period, seeing ourselves as called to wherever we are. Sure. So when my son comes to me, and this is the segue.
Yeah.
My son said to me from the time he was a little boy.
Yeah.
I believe God is calling me to sports.
Mercy.
Bro, so what I'm not going to do, and if you want to do this, that's you. I'm not going to say to him, that's not possible. Because it's also not possible for Joseph, who gets sold into slavery by his brothers, to go from a rape charge, falsely accused, to prison to prime minister. It's also not possible for 3 Hebrew boys and Daniel to be exiled, right? Snatched from home, put in an environment, and then Daniel becomes he's running the empire of the then known world. That's not possible. We don't have any pathway for that. What I'm saying is so I'm not going to tell my son, I don't know what God is doing with him. Eli didn't even know that God was speaking to Samuel. So he just said, hey man, just say, speak Lord, for your servant is listening. So this is what we've trained with. This is what we've taught our children. We taught them you can do anything. We taught them nothing is impossible with God. We taught them I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. So when we are teaching this to our children in our home, it has created an environment where our children are going into non-traditional spaces, and they feel, and this is the good news is I just thank God that my kids have a relationship with the Lord. No, they're not perfect, but man, Camden believes God is calling him to sports. Taylor believes God is calling her to fashion.
Come on.
So I'm going to get out of the way. That's my mindset. I am not going to control this, and I can't anymore. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But when you're a parent, you got to know when it's time for you to stop trying to be in control of the situation. And so we have supported Camden in his journey. Camden is moving in a way that I would not have been able to move when I was a child. Because of the environment that I grew up in terms of how we thought about sport. I would not have been allowed. I would not have been supported in some of those areas. But my son literally is telling me that God is telling him this is what he wants to do. I'm sorry, bro. I am getting out of the way. That's my theology. My theology is I don't know what God is doing. And I think sometimes we as parents, we overreact. For example, sports does a lot to help people with discipline. With consistency. With teamwork. With a sense of identity. What sports has done for Camden in terms of what he has done to his body, the level of discipline that he has. This brother's waking up in the morning, training, and eating a certain way. Bro, I could have, Sabbath school would have never got him to do that.
That's good.
I mean, we've been saying this to him all his life. But now that there's a goal, now that there is a team, now that there's something to strive for, now that there's some challenge involved, like he is locked in. And so I see my role to support, to pray for what God is doing. Because, bro, I have no idea. And honestly, it ain't none of my business. in that sense.
Yeah.
Camden's a grown man now. Sure. He's 21 years old. This is God dealing with him. Am I still his parent? Yes. Does God speak to me about it? But is God talking to Camden about what he's doing in my life?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So the process now is, how do I lovingly support him in his journey?
Sure.
If he was pursuing medicine, and in the Adventist church, if he's pursuing medicine, he can work any day of the week. We don't care. Matter of fact, he can do whatever he wants. Matter of fact, if he becomes a doctor, he don't even got to be spiritual. We'll make him an elder in the church. Because we value that career because it's somehow connected to our theology of health and all this type of stuff. But you and I both know better. Like it has become a cultural, we've made an idol out of that field. Right. And so there's a level of we allow for a little more freedom when they're doing that. There's some positions that can get off on Sabbath if they wanted to. Right. But nobody asked questions about that. Like, you couldn't even go to the military when I was coming up.
That was the other one. We're going to talk about that, right? I mean, that's a space that there has been tension for some, even still, I think, as Jay said, Sabbath observance. And many of the folks that we celebrate now, when they first started that journey, they weren't celebrated. Shout out to Barry Black. Shout out to Barry Black,
he
right?
told me that.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I think that's another reason why this conversation is so important, because the intersection with Sabbath observance transcends sport. But I think we're also pushing on the reality that there are certain things that we've accepted or that we were told they were okay. And I'm not sure that we ever really reflected on it for ourselves. Right? We talked about that within the context of even certain activities on Sabbath separate from competition. We talk about from Bermuda, from Bermuda, right? You got folks, it's hot, it's summertime, and I guess when the missionaries came over, somebody told us it's okay to go for a Sabbath walk, but you can't go on a Sabbath swim.
That's crazy.
So you can enjoy the nature, above the water, but you can't enjoy it. Right? So who said? And again, it connects to culture. Because for many of us, when we move and we travel, I know when I moved out and moved to other parts of the world and spent some time in our state conference spaces, right? And church is over by 12:30 and folks are skiing at 2. Right? So who said, who gets to decide what God approves of?
And we don't know either. Some of it's the privilege of not being white. I'll give you a prime example. Like, a black person would tell somebody, who's poor, can I ride my boat on Sabbath?
Right.
But then you go to other countries where boating is a natural part of transportation.
This is it. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It just, some of this stuff, if we think about it, it just makes no logical sense whatsoever. But yes, we have taken that same mindset and I think we've applied it to sports.
So where do we go from here, right? In our conversation, but also, obviously you mentioned like Cam's a little bit older now, so he's on his own journey, but there are parents who are sort of nurturing younger people who have athletic gifting. I think I mentioned to you in a previous conversation, I am aware of athletes who are Adventists whose gifts have made room for them, that they were so excellent that D1 programs were willing to adjust schedules so that they could play as many games as possible and not compromise, their Sabbath, the perspective on Sabbath observance. And I say it that way because I want to make sure that we're leaving room for people to continue to wrestle and consider, right? And there is a continuum. There are many of our contemporaries, our folks who, they're telling their kids, listen, I'm going to support you whether you play on Sabbath or not.
There's a shift.
Right? There's a shift that's taking place.
A shift, yeah.
And there's also those who would encourage the children to not play on Sabbath, and young people who feel convicted not to play on Sabbath. And we're not trying to tell people what to do.
Absolutely not.
I actually believe that there is grace and favor across the continuum, right? I do believe that if we were so excellent, that I know that, I've seen it, that if we're excellent in our gift, that there are opportunities for us to be able to play at the highest level. I believe that we can shift systems, and certainly there are things that are bigger than any one person, but I asked the question in the article, right? If LeBron was a Sabbath keeper, if he somehow was convicted, right? If Steph was somehow convicted that Sabbath observers, I'm not saying that they'll change the entire NBA schedule, but I imagine that folks with certain power access.
Not this LeBron.
Right? Maybe earlier, right? But I imagine there is space for consideration, right? And so when I think about even a way forward, when I think about for parents and for younger athletes, But when I think about a way forward, I'm also thinking about athletes who have navigated our system, and maybe didn't have these types of conversations. There's something here, and I'll be specific. For me, in the piece, one of these, there's a subtitle that says, "It shouldn't have taken magic." Like, I believe that for somebody like a Magic Johnson, I believe we owe him and his generation an apology. Right? I believe that, and I don't know exactly what his story is, but if you grew up in a church structure where there was no space for even this consideration, I can only guess that you probably felt like you had to choose between your God and your gift. And I guess the argument that I'm continuing to make is, I believe that the gift of athleticism is no less than the gift of speaking, or music that we celebrate in our spaces, or medicine, or anything else. And so I want to just maybe give us a moment to just sort of like consider, like, what could be a way forward if God was to delay his coming? Like, what is a best case scenario for folks who are saying, "Daddy, we're open to what you're saying. There's a generation of young people who are coming through who perhaps need support and guidance in ways we didn't give them. And there's a previous generation of folks who did the best that they could. We stand in this bridge space. How do we best steward that influence?"
And I'll say this, I do think that we have gone to the other extreme now.
Sure.
I think, and this is just my opinion, I do think that there is because we grew up with so many restrictions and that heavy-handedness, now there seems to be no conversations about calling, no conversations about ministry, no conversations about mission. It's all, well, they didn't let me do this when I was a kid, so I want you to be able to have every opportunity I didn't have. So I want to say this, and this may sound almost like it's not a contradiction, but I do want to present another. You can make anything, including sports, an idol.
100%.
And I'll say it's just sports. But it's also just medicine. It's just, but notice what we do. Like, and I was talking to a parent the other day, and they were flipping out because their kids brought home something less than an A. And I'm just like, it's amazing to me how we will make a mountain out of a molehill when it comes to academics. Now, what I know, and what I think also that the research says that what actually determines successful outcomes, and I put that word successful in quotations because I'm talking about a larger success, not just monetary, because you can have money and be Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I'm saying? Or, the president of the United States or anybody. So it can't be just money. But having a healthy outlook in life, and really what the researchers are now defining in child development, resilience. How do you bounce back? How do you overcome difficulty? They said the number one predictor of that is when a child has clarity on their identity, because they understand their history.
That's good.
So that's not academic prowess. That's not grades. But if you come from a certain cultural milieu in Black culture, they will get harder on you. Shout out my African folks, shout out my Caribbean folk. They will, they go in on you for grades and and let's be honest, what it's all about. It's all about status. It's all about how it makes them look. It's about the American dream. It's about capitalism. It's not about ministry. It's not about souls. It's not about building kingdom. It's about you go to Oakwood, you graduate, you get a good job that makes good money, and you have a good looking wife and a good looking husband, a good looking family, and the family is proud. Because of our status. And we're building status off of your status. Now, that's the truth.
It's real.
And so, come on now. We've made an idol out of quote unquote material success. And you see it all in the churches. Like, we give people a pass because they have money or because they have a certain title or they have a certain position. So I'm just making the point clear that you can make an idol out of anything. So what would I say to a parent? Teach your children how to process calling and mission. That's the only reason why we're breathing. We're breathing. God has you alive because you have a purpose on this planet. And so now my role is to help my children walk into purpose. Not tell them what it is. And part of purpose is falling down, getting up, having moments of confusion, having seasons of preparation, seasons of testing, and seasons when you come out in the spotlight. It's up and down. There's a lot of people right now they are working respectable jobs.
Yeah.
And they're good looking Adventists.
Sure.
And they're in utter disobedience because they're not doing the thing God told them to do. And you're going to sit up there and be judgmental about a kid who wants to be a soccer player because he feels like God wants him to use his gifts for that.
Come on.
But how are you going to judge him? You're not even doing what God told you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're comfortable.
Yeah.
You're paying bills. You're living in a nice house.
Yeah.
You traded security. And that's what I was talking about today. You traded security for God's assignment. And so my thing is let's be true to the word and to assignment and a calling. Let's push our children to ministry. But you know why that's hard to do, Ty? Because the average person that's listening to us right now, they're not doing ministry. It's not even a part of the framework, the conversations that they're having with themselves.
Yeah.
They're not building kingdom. They've led no soul to Christ. Yeah. So why would they see basketball as a tool for that when they don't even see their own assignment as a tool for that?
Mercy. That's good. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the points that we're seeking to make in the series, right?
Yes.
Is that sport is also a legitimate place of ministry, right? That people
everything is a legitimate place of ministry.
Yes. And sport is one I think that we've overlooked. And to your point, I think it's important that you raise that it could be a space of idolatry. I know for me in my journey, right, like even what I'm doing now as an administrator in sport, I believe that God allowed me to live out childhood ministry calling and passion. I thought I was going to do it as an athlete. He allowed me to not experience all the success I wanted as an athlete. I believe so that sport is not an idol. And now I'm able to be positioned as an administrator to ask questions of the system that we may be able to create something for the next generation, right? So I love what you're saying. I want to just begin to transition to a close with a couple of sort of, just to tee you up this way. I know we also talked about Paul's writings, right? And his use of sports analogies, right? 1 Corinthians 9:24 and 2 Timothy 4:8, Philippians 3:13 and 14, right? Galatians 5:7, Hebrews 12:1-3. If you haven't had a chance to read the article, we give you some scriptures you better consider and wrestle with as well, right? We're not telling you what to think, but we're inviting you into a conversation also with scriptures that include sport.
Yes.
What say you, Minister of God?
And these are overt scriptures.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, Paul is very clearly talking about boxing. He's very clearly talking about running marathons, which was a major thing in Roman culture. Paul was a Roman. So I guess Paul was at the marathon.
He was there. He was there.
Watching, cheering somebody on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's pulling from his experience. I think one of the issues that we often have is we have this compartmentalization of our lives.
Sure.
So we even say stuff like sacred and secular. But when you really carefully, and this could be for another conversation, but really carefully study the Old Testament, particularly the Hebrews, that the mind of those that wrote scripture never saw a separation between sacred and secular. Everything we do is sacred.
Yeah.
So there's no compartmentalization between what I'm doing. So Paul pulling in sports analogies that's what we do because we see God everywhere.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Yeah.
I love that. You, I know you also pushing me, right? As relates to, hey man, like what could be, like what's a vision or what is God saying in this space? I want to just invite folks to, sort of bat their appetite around some of the things we talk about in the article, and in so doing, invite your thoughts as well. One of the questions I ask is, if athletics is a legitimate mission to reach those on the journey of life and faith inside and beyond Adventism, how satisfied are you with our efforts in this mission field? That's a question, right? And not one that you have to answer here, but it's just, again, like, I want us to think, right? If Christ didn't return, like, for another 50 years, right? How could members of the Adventist Church mobilize a more progressive, forward-thinking theology, emancipatory methodology of sport that positions our children and grandchildren to reach souls for Christ and to live lives of influence through and in athletics? Right? Questions, right? Or, where and how did we come to know our position on sport and faith? Right? Just right. Even like when we think about just our epistemologists, our ways of knowing. Like, who told you that?
Who told you that?
Right? Who told you that you were naked? Right, Adam? Right? Who told you that? Right? And then, and even more fundamentally, like, could Adventism produce its own LeBron, its own Bambayama, right? Its own Serena? Like, what would happen if parents began to lay their hands on bellies and to say, Lord, anoint my wife's womb to allow this child to be able to have gifts that could be used by you, even in sport, or not even specifically in sport. Give us a Samson of this generation, right? Like, I mean, could there be a systematic shift whereby our structure, and I'm talking about our schools and our universities, where we as the early other Catholic Church, a worldwide movement. We've got athletes around the world. If he was to lay his comment, is it possible that maybe there's a systematic shift and maybe some reprioritization and some opening up of head space and heart space so that sport becomes a mechanism, not just for ministry, but also for church influence, for pathways to it, for infrastructure that's not the tail, but the head.
Wow.
Right? Where we begin to invest in this space to reach young people who may not know Christ, but they know sport. Like many of us, we've reached young people on basketball courts. We've seen this work. You mentioned even in the church spaces, right? So we know that this is a legitimate pathway to ministry. Shout out to those like Pastor Duggett, who he's doing that again in Florida even now.
Yes.
We think about us. We went to Madison Mission during its heyday and started. The colors of Madison Mission are aligned with the Lakers. Like Duggett talked about.
That's true.
Right, sport. Like for maybe that's why we think the way we think as relates to our openness to it. But I guess what I'm asking, I want us to think about is what is possible if we didn't have a deficit-based view and perspective on sport.
A deficit-based. Woo, that's heavy. It's funny. While you were talking, I was thinking the whole time about, you were asking, why don't we have this person and why don't we have that person, and praying over wombs, and that's the deficit thinking that you're saying. We could never have But it's funny. We have magic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're claiming him now, even though Magic is clearly a member of West Angeles Church of God in Christ, and that may be a lot because of his wife's influence, but we know his mother was Seventh-day Adventist or whatever. But I'm just going to use him as a archetype. But this is what we do. When they're on the journey to getting there, we shun them.
Yeah.
But when they get there, we love him standing up in front of Oakwood University Church writing that $500,000 check for that Family Life Center that everybody's using now for Sabbath potlucks.
Sure.
So we will support them when they get to the top.
Yeah.
And then need them. But we will not support them on their journey. So I guess it's okay to take it now, but it wasn't okay when we have to wrestle with how we view our relationship with, and here's the key word I want to bring. It's not sports. Is people.
Yeah, that's good.
These are people. It's their lives.
Sure.
And it's not just the kids.
Yeah.
There's staff, there's film people, there's all kinds of people who are involved in this.
Yeah.
And their lives are involved in it. And then if we keep having a hands-off approach, we are missing out on a major mission field.
Yeah. Man, I just feel impressed just to look at this camera, and I think we did it on a separate episode, but you might have missed that one. And I just think we also got to say sorry to those who have felt like their gifts, their humanity, their calling, their passions weren't welcomed. Their interests.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And sometimes even as leaders, as pastors, we've counseled people, and I know in our pre-production conversation, you talked about apologizing to somebody because you felt like, you probably should have told them not to do certain things. Right? And so even in our own journeys, in maturation as leaders and as ministers, as pastors, there are things that we may say to people differently as we mature, right? And so, you don't work for the church. I don't work for the church, but we are committed to our people. And we're not speaking on behalf of the organization, but as people of the organization. If you've been hurt by people, structures, positionalities that didn't allow you to see fully the love of Christ, I'm sorry. And we want to invite you into a reconsideration of what's possible and maybe what God is saying to us in this season. There's an athlete that's watching this. There's a parent who's watching this who's been wrestling. There's an administrator who was a hooper back in the day. They're a Chiefs fan. They're a Cowboys fan. They're got a bracket they're going to fill out for March.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't know exactly how the Spirit is speaking to you, but I pray that we're opening up our heart to hear what the Lord is saying in this space. I don't know, just as a final word, man, if there's anything on your heart, I want to make sure that we could tee people up to continue the journey. We've had 3 articles prior to the one that's about to drop, the fourth one. And I do offer some suggestions. I want to just read a couple of them. One of the things I recommend is I think that we need more Adventist chaplains in sport. I believe I was the first Seventh-day Adventist chaplain to be ordained or endorsed and ordained in the sport chaplaincy lane, right? I shouldn't be the last. And this is not about me, but I think similar to how, Barry Black's engagement in the military space has opened up a whole lane where now it's celebrated. What does it look like for us to be open to how God is moving in these spaces? And there are a lot of believers in the sports space
100%.
who are being ministered to by amazing, gifted pastors and chaplains.
Yes, they are.
Just that many of them are not from our Adventist community. And I think we need to be thoughtful about that as we go forward. Two, I also suggest that we need to consider forming a robust nationwide league across the NAD and maybe across regional churches, right? Regional conferences. Maybe we're a global church. Like, what if we really had the infrastructure to do that, right? And that's not to suggest that young people shouldn't participate in AAU and other programs. I think that there's value in building relationships with folks in different structures, different communities. I also think there's a need to funding follows fresh vision, humility, and leadership, right? And so I believe there's a need to apologize, to honor our athletes. We've had some amazing, gifted people in sport, in spite of the fact that we haven't supported them. I know in Bermuda, there were national team footballers and folks who did significant things just in my little community in Bermuda who are well known for what they did in sport. And what would it look like to honor them at Kent Meeting like we honor musicians? To put them aside and say, listen, let's give them every single one. Do we have a sport hall of fame, right? Let's look at just whatever. I don't want to talk
music hall of fame.
Right, you know what I mean? But how do we honor folks in that space? 4, I already mentioned saying I'm sorry. 5, I mentioned honoring our former athletes, participating in local leagues, creating our own league that is maybe sponsored by the church. So those are some things we've talked about. And I'll say this, man, I'm not afraid to just say it with my chest. I believe that we could have D1 level university programs, D1 sports in our structure. I believe that we could steward young people, especially in a sport like basketball, right? Where it only takes about 5 to 8, right? I mean, you don't have a big team.
Absolutely.
Right? So what would it look like for us to have infrastructure that nurtures them from a young age and they are positioned to engage with their AAU teammates in ways that they don't have to be weird, right? But they also are connected and they're building relationships. And we have a pathway and we are accenting our stewardship of our league engagement. And there is accommodation for our Sabbath commitments as some may want to approach it, right? But there's also infrastructure that says we truly are the head and not the tail. What would that look like? I know from my own work, engagement, consultancy with other universities, et cetera, that there are universities that are not much bigger than, for example, our alma mater that go to the NCAA tournament annually.
That's right. Facts.
Right? So those are some of my reflections as a young brother born and raised in Bermuda, family from St. Louis who desired to play cup match, right? For St. George's, by the way. I know you got to make sure you put that in there. I did not get to play, but in my heart, I could have played on Sabbath because my parents weren't as, my mom wasn't, in the church like that when I was growing up. My dad was a sport administrator, so they gave me space to choose. Many of my friends didn't have that opportunity. I always felt drawn, though, to the people of God. But I also felt in my heart like, man, God, would you make me so great that the system would adjust to me? And while I didn't get to do that as an athlete, now I'm positioned to be able to do that as an administrator. And so, man, I just want to say thank you for your presence in our structure as a leader, as a thought leader. We met when you came with DP, bro, singing Good News. You cut my hair.
Yes, sir.
On our first trip. And I mean, come on, for such a time as this, like the sponsors of the choir could have had you go to anybody else's house. But my mom said, we're going to have somebody come from Oak or whatever. I think I was a senior in high school. You and Steve Boyd.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And you guys end up staying in the house and we've been brothers for life. And so, man, I just want to just celebrate just even what you're doing with the winning circle. I know you're also ministering to athletes in that space and to men. And so just from your heart, as you just bring this to a close, what's on your heart for the people in light of our conversation, in light of what you're doing for men, for families, and your love for people and for sport?
Honestly, just very succinctly, I think it just all starts with what am I here for?
Yeah.
And I think passion and purpose line up with our unique experiences. Yeah. And God actually is interested in everything we're interested in.
Yeah.
And so there are, I think you always serve best where you are interested, where you love something.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage y'all, the road is wide open. Step into, the word said go. It didn't say where to go. It said go make disciples. And I'm saying we need to be training up our folk to make disciples, and to make disciples where they love it, where they're interested, where they're gifted, where they're talented. Make disciples there. Let's stop telling people that you can only make disciples in church. You can only make disciples in a classroom. You can only make disciples if you're a pastor, doctor, lawyer, preacher. Like, let's encourage our folk. Let's get salt everywhere.
Come on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So seasons, so flavors, so preserves.
Yes.
Yeah. We hope that this conversation has been a blessing to you. This is a good time to subscribe. Where can people also follow you and find you as well in light of the work that you're doing?
Yeah. Most of my social media handles are at It's MyRon Live. That's at ITSMYRONLIVE. We have a big major conference coming up. We have a lot of athletes that'll be there. A lot of coaches bringing their players. It's our annual Men's Winning Circle Conference happening on the first weekend of May. That's April 30th through May the 3rd, Atlanta, Georgia. Go to our website, winningcircleconference.com. And you can remember, this is, matter of fact, this will be the first year that we're actually intentionally inviting young men 13 to 25.
That's amazing.
And so, you don't want to miss this opportunity to grow and to get clarity on where you need to be.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you, man. You are an example of what it looks like to take a glimpse at the other side of genius. Yeah. Your willingness to even shift from traditional pastoral ministry to continue to minister where you're called is inspiring. And I hope that it's inspired somebody else today, not just in the sports space, but to also hopefully see another side of Jesus. Amen. We'll see you next time.
I know you've been searching. You should know you worthy.